After being together for 2.5 years, aspiring artist Ben is going through a breakup with his first real girlfriend Susie. She keeps yelling at him, but since he just stands there without reacting, she starts throwing things at him too. Ben is supposed to be concentrating on his last year of college, but he can't stop thinking about the breakup because he doesn't understand why it happened. It doesn't help that he must watch Susie flirt with a new guy during lunch, which makes him wonder if she had been cheating on him. His best friend Sean says he needs a rebound to feel better, but Ben has trouble trusting the advice of a guy who always has terrible luck with women. During art class, he starts drawing a beautiful classmate instead of the model and the teacher scolds him for it. Living in a student house means Ben shares the building with 120 people his age, so every night he hears them getting dirty. Tonight he can't sleep, so he decides to call Susie, waking her up. He apologizes to her and asks her to get back together, but she turns him down and mentions the new guy. Afterward, Ben still can't sleep and starts looking at his pictures with Susie. He considers burning them, but can't bring himself to do it. As days pass, Ben develops insomnia. He tries a bunch of methods to try to sleep, but nothing works, and even though he chooses different activities to keep himself busy, his thoughts keep going back to Susie. One evening he's getting snacks at the store and notices that they're looking for employees for the night shift. He fills in an application and ends up zoning out during the interview, but he gets the job anyway. Now Ben can start using his insomnia to make some money. One of his co-workers is Sharon, the cashier, who is very nice and welcoming. One night she arrives late and their boss Jenkins scolds her, but Ben can't help noticing him getting a little handsy. The job ends up being pretty boring, so Ben keeps zoning out and staring at the clients, so Jenkins has to constantly scold him too. Sharon keeps her watch covered with tape and avoids looking at the store clock because looking at the time makes it feel slower. Ben's other Barry, who went viral on the internet once over a silly bicycle video. Since then he spends his nights at the store on his scooter. Barry and Matt are in charge of the meat section and spend their time making inappropriate jokes with the products. They also play pranks like putting naughty-looking shampoo bottles in women's baskets to see if they buy them to use as dirty toys. One night when Jenkins isn't around, Matt and Barry try to start a scooter race, only to crash against a lady's shopping cart. 2 weeks pass and Ben is stuck in the store's boring routine. Desperate to find a way to make his 8 hours feel shorter, he starts imagining that he can freeze time as if pausing it with a remote. He pictures himself walking among all the clients without being judged or stared at, but he can stare at the women he finds hot all he wants. While doing all this daydreaming, Ben also thinks about his past and how he became interested in capturing beauty with his art. When he was a child, his parents took in a foreign student who liked to walk around the house with no clothes on. Seeing her bare form woke something up in him, and back then he wished he could stop time to stare at her forever. Now he keeps imagining how useful it would be to be able to stop time. He could undress the store clients and draw them to his heart's content, admiring their beauty without reservations or judgment. He could fill a whole sketchbook just with random women doing their shopping, and he would make sure to fix their clothes afterward. Ben would also use the chance to play pranks, like putting Jenkins under falling objects. During the day, Sean visits Ben. The new employee Brian claims he knows martial arts and cleans by using special poses. When the guys mock him for it, Brian just slaps Matt. Ben is slowly developing a crush on Sharon and even shares his food with her while wishing he could freeze the moment forever. One night Ben is devastated to hear Matt ask Sharon out and she accepted. Matt starts making dirty noises about his plans for the date, so Ben has to walk away while remembering all the crushes he's had. His first one was a professional runner who he watched at Olympic events. He was attracted to her because she ran barefoot. His second crush was his biology teacher because Ben liked the very tight sweaters and pretty skirts she wore. The biggest crush of all had been a classmate named Tanya. One day she broke her arm and came to class with a cast, so Ben enjoyed watching her struggle with it or find ways to take care of her itch. When Tanya asked him to sign the cast, Ben only drew an X. After the cast came off, her arm was covered in hair and the other boys mocked her for it. Ben comforted her and told her she was still beautiful, so she agreed to be his girlfriend. When Tanya asked him for their first kiss, he panicked and told her to meet him the next day. He was hoping that coming to school on a Saturday without anyone around would make the moment more romantic. However, Tanya didn't show up for the kiss and didn't come to class ever again because the family moved out of the country. In the present, Ben and Sean are playing chess and Sean can tell Ben is still not well because he's losing. Ben shares the situation with Sharon and Sean advises him not to lose hope since only one date doesn't mean anything. But Ben knows Sean gets handsy on the first date, so his advice means nothing. The next day when the night shift begins, Matt tells the group all the details about his date with Sharon, including a description of her bare body. The conversation is interrupted by Jenkins, who announces they'll be playing a soccer match against the employees from another branch next weekend. When Sharon shows up to support them and Ben has to watch how Matt keeps flirting with her. The other team has nice uniforms and good communication, so Ben's group doesn't have much hope. When the match finally begins, the other team immediately proves to be superior. Ben's group keeps falling and bumping into each other, not to mention Jenkins keeps taking business calls in the middle of the field. Their opponents sometimes play dirty, but the referee doesn't seem to notice and Ben's team has to stop Jenkins from beating him up. Brian is a very bad goalkeeper who somehow manages to make the ball bounce right into his goal area. With 1 minute left, Ben's team is losing 26-0, so Jenkins wants them to at least make 1 goal before the match ends. According to plan, Ben passes the ball to Jenkins and he kicks it at the goal area, only for the ball to bounce on the metal bar. Matt immediately kicks it and accidentally hits Jenkins' face. Tired of all this clowning, Ben imagines what it would be like to freeze this moment and walk out of the match to avoid the shame. He would stare at Sharon for a second before going for a drink, but the moment would be interrupted by a weird noise. Suddenly a man would run out of the scene, and Ben realizes what a loser he is. Fantasy he can't do things well. Back to the match, Jenkins' nose is heavily bleeding. They chat for a while about their life choices, college, and their dreams for the future. Sharon thinks painters are romantic because they can see the beauty in everything. Later when Ben takes Sharon home, they both feel rather awkward, so their attempt at kissing fails and it ends up being a kiss on the cheek. The following night Jenkins comes to work with a cervical collar and bandages on his face. He claims he doesn't feel any pain and announces he'll be having a birthday party. Sharon asks Ben to be her date for the party and he agrees. In private, Jenkins tells the boys he wants a dirty dancer for his party and asks Ben to hire one. The next afternoon Sean for help and he agrees as long as he gets to attend the party too. The duo goes to a bar and has a beer while watching the dancer, who is a bit lame. While Sean negotiates with her, Ben can't help imagining Sharon as an exotic dancer too. No matter how many days or weeks pass, Ben still can't sleep even though he doesn't Susie much anymore. During his night shifts, he keeps imagining he has time-stopping powers, but now instead of looking at random women, he stares at Sharon and fantasizes about having all the time in the world to make hundreds of paintings of her. The night before the party Sharon confirms they're going together and kisses Ben before leaving the store. This heals Ben's heartbreak and he can finally sleep again. The next day he gets a call from a gallery, saying they want to have his art. Ben gets excited, unaware this is another prank from Barry and Matt. Moments before the party, everyone starts getting ready and spends a ridiculous amount of time in front of the mirror. Ben picks Sharon up as promised, and Sean shows up with his current fling. To Ben's shock, Susie is at the party as well because Jenkins is her boyfriend's brother. They have an awkward but well-mannered greeting and Ben manages to ignore her without feeling bad. When the naughty dancer finally arrives, she offers a good show for Jenkins, but her bodyguard prevents him from touching her. Sean records the whole thing and when the dancer toward the camera, he realizes this is his old neighbor Natalie, so he invites her to stay for it. Meanwhile Jenkins tries to kiss Sharon and invites her to his room. Sharon keeps turning him down yet Jenkins still gets handsy. When he forced feeds her some popcorn, she spits it back into his mouth and leaves the room, not noticing Jenkins choking. Upstairs Ben bumps into Susie and she apologizes for everything again. She says she can't stop thinking about him and kisses him just in time to see them. Sharon turns around to leave so she doesn't notice Ben pushing Susie off him. When Ben realizes what Sharon saw, he wishes he could stop time or even rewind it to do things correctly. He keeps thinking of something he could say to make her stay, but there's nothing he can do and Sharon leaves the party while Barry slides downstairs in a box. Afterward Ben goes to Sharon's apartment building, but when she hears his voice she refuses to open the door. Ben waits for another person to come out and sneaks inside to run upstairs to Sharon's apartment. Just like it happened with Susie, he stands there as Sharon yells at him with all the fury of the world. Once again Ben broken heart and nothing to do. The following night Barry comes to work with a collar because he got hurt during his stunt and Sharon is nowhere to be seen. When Ben goes home, he discovers he has insomnia again. The next Wednesday Ben goes to the gallery and discovers it all had been a prank. However the gallery owner still works and is very impressed, so this time Ben gets a proper appointment. Sometime later, Sharon gets an invitation to Ben's very own exhibition. The night of the event apologizes about the party incident and Sharon points out the paintings speak for themselves. At that moment Ben kisses Sharon and pretends to stop time, but he leaves Sharon unfrozen so they can go outside. The snow has stopped falling midway and now the couple can kiss with a beautiful sight surrounding them.